So good evening, everyone. Once more, Mazes okay here. As you all know, last Friday, the 27th of July 2019, the federal government of Nigeria obtained a court order to proscribe the Shiite organization, formerly referred to as the Islamic Movement in Nigeria, IMN. The federal government order, or rather, the Federal High Court in Abuja, like I said, last Friday, ordered the proscription of the Shiite movement as protests by the Islamic organization rocks Abuja. It is on record that they've been proscribed in Kaduna before. Justice Nkonye Maha issued the court order in a ruling in which she also designated the activities of the Shiite organization in any part of Nigeria as an act of terrorism. The court didn't stop there, went further to restrain any persons or group of persons from participating in any form of activity involving or concerning the IMN under any name or platform in Nigeria. Now, that's what it means. Nigeria is the only country in the world that has official 4 groups as terrorists. To complete the process of that prescription of the group, the court has ordered the Attorney General of the Federation to publish the order prescribing the respondents' Islamic movement in Nigeria in the official gazettes. Basically went further to say that this should be done in 2 national dailies. The judge gave the order following an ex parte application by the federal government, exactly the way IPOB was prescribed. Justice Maha granted the 4 prayers contained in the application after the Solicitor General of the Federation and Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Justice, I think that was Mr. Dayo Apata or something like that, who passionately argued for the application on last Friday. The Islamic movement in Nigeria was the sole respondent in that application, and it's actually funny that, have you ever seen a terrorist group with lawyers? These people have lawyers that represent them, just like IPOB. Boko Haram doesn't have such, so how can you classify them as a terrorist group? And by this act, the activities of the Islamic movement in Nigeria has been deemed the act of or amount to terrorism, and it's an illegality. The courts, again, basically from that order that prescribed the existence and the activities of these terror group in Nigeria, in anywhere these groups are, they've been proscribed, like IPOB is done. Now, there is this school of thoughts that argue, why should Southerners get involved? Why should Southerners be concerned? But bear in mind that if during the Hitler War, or rather during this Second World War, there is this saying that says, they came for the Jews, I wasn't Jews, I kept quiet. They came for the Catholics, I wasn't Catholic, I kept quiet. They came for the for the doctors, I wasn't a doctor, I kept quiet. So by the time they come for you, no one is going to be there to speak out for you. Now, these men we consider to be educated in Nigeria. These are men that came in as people of progressive, acting like this. Exactly my thought on this. Maz is okay. I am genuinely concerned the way we proscribe organizations that protests or disagrees with the federal government of Nigeria. We label them as terrorist groups. We have indeed broken the world record as the only nation on earth with the most terror groups in the world. By government definition, we have the Aswani, we have the Boko Haram, we have the IPOB, and we have the Islamic movement. Does it bother us that in a space of 10 years, Nigeria has officially recognized 4 terror groups to be operating within their space created by government actions? 2 of the proscribed groups does not carry arms, while 2 dwell in mass killing, bombing and raping and underaged. I sincerely pray and hope that the proscription does not send them into guerrilla activities. I am really concerned. I am really concerned as to the future. I am really concerned as to how the international community will view us. How do you get foreign direct investments when all the record you show to the world is that you are a hub of terror? Is there no other way of controlling the crisis? Why create avoidable monsters? Why? Why do we have to act this way? Why? Why do we have to act this way? Why? Many of us have actually argued, this is a very avoidable confrontation. The federal government could have handled this differently. I know in so many forums and in private conversations, some people have agreed where some people haven't agreed with me. But I strongly believe that the federal government could have avoided this. The Shiites that were lost, the lives lost, were avoidable. The youth copper, Wallaby, Precious, that lost his life, his death was avoidable. The police commissioner that was, lost his life, his death was avoidable. How do I mean? The court has said, even the ECOWAT court, allow El-Zakzaky to go home, pay him this compensation for violating his rights. You see, we do not pick and choose in a constitutional democracy. This is the reason why there is separation of powers. So if you go to court to convict someone and you think you do not get the favorable judgment, the reason why you've gone to court too, then you decide not to obey that court order. That is cherry picking. If you say you are a constitutional democracy, then you must abide by the rules, by the guidance of the society, of the rule of, the rule of law. So why is the federal government that obviously has done wrong not obeying court order, and not when the court say release El-Zakzaky? Why can't you release him? We will not be talking about this proscription if you had, released El-Zakzaky and monitor him. You see, many of us don't care if you bug his line, if you tap his line, record his conversations. If you think and you want to convince Nigerians that you have enough on El-Zakzaky to nail him, take those informations to court. If those informations are weighty enough as you want us to believe, then there is no court of competent jurisdiction that will not look at those informations and convict him. We wouldn't be talking all this if it was a legal process that convicted him. So be it. Honestly, that is what my argument is. I am not defending the Shiite or the Islamic movement of Nigeria because they are protesting. No, I am lending my voice in saying I think, as I have said before, that the proscription or even the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu was very, very wrong. The same way I'm saying that the arrest and the illegal detention, again the key word here, illegal, the illegal detention of El-Zakzaky, it's equally wrong, because there are other legal means we could have done this. There is nothing on earth stopping us from approaching the court, lay these informations bare, and tell the court to put him on a house arrest. Let him sign the condition of, if we're going to grant him bail, let him sign the condition of bail and strictly adhere to that bell. So why allow people to come to Abuja all the time and protest? Because their leader is in detention in Abuja. That's why. I mean, it's a simple logic. It's not rocket science. But it's actually sad that this nation keeps behaving this way. And the one thing that bothers me is even when these things now happen and people speak up, the next thing you hear is, oh, that Igbos have moved away from supporting IPOB and supporting Islamic movement of Nigeria. And that's nonsense. There is one fundamental, probably people would think is an error, but there is one fundamental characteristic of the South or the Easterners. That fundamental, instinct in them, which I am part of, is that we believe in universal justice. That's why in Igbo, there is this concept that drives the Igbo. Ebe belu go bebelu. Let the eagle perch and let the kite perch. So, if we have universal justice, if we have justice and equity where people are respected and where their rights, where their freedom is guaranteed, if we have law courts, let the law court take its processes and jail people who are misbehaving. Okay? Like in the case of Nnamdi Kanu, the court said, release him. Freaking hell, what in hell, why can't you release him? If we had, the escalation wouldn't have gotten to that point. But now we have something that, it's the injustice is so glaring. Again, the same mistake. It appears we don't learn. Sometimes I struggle to understand those advising, the current government. Why don't we have people who could advise them to take an alternative means? People talk about war, for instance. Bear in mind, every single war that has ever been fought would end up on a negotiating table. So why don't you start with that negotiating table before you go to war? Again, negotiate with any group. Today, we are trying to negotiate with Boko Haram. Remember how we created Boko Haram? That was actually in 2009. That is 10 years today. 10 years today, the Nigerian state, created Boko Haram. Mohammed Yusuf was captured alive. Try him, have that court process. Try him, send him to jail. If you had tried Mohammed Yusuf and jailed him, we wouldn't have had Boko Haram. But because you unjustly killed him, because probably some names were mentioned, and that is why we're in the mess. The same mistake, exactly the same mistake is what you're doing. What sort of, I don't understand. Honestly, I do not understand this country. I do. Sometimes it hurts because I don't understand why do we reason this way? Why? Why do we reason this way? Why do we have to? Why? Why do we have to keep repeating the same mistakes? People make arguments saying, well, it doesn't bother you. It shouldn't be an issue. No, we are all human. We all have the same blood running, through our veins. That's the same blood. There is no white blood or black blood or, whatever blood you call it. I don't freaking care. We have the same blood. That's why we are human. And when you see injustice, I don't care if it's PDP doing injustice. My job is to speak. If it's APC doing injustice, my job is to speak. I don't care if an Igbo man does injustice, I will speak. Injustice is not good. In this case, I can only say it's an injustice being done. You do not need to agree with me, but I'm saying it, my feeling, what I think as a person. This is what I think. I'm a thinking person. I've looked at the issues. I've looked at issues that I've spoken over the time, the issues that I've advocated, the issues that I've fought for, and I can see a clear case of what happened to the IPOB happening here. And in all this, yet we have we have headsmen menace, where people, abduct people, demand for ransom, and yet they have not been proscribed. Even World Terrorism Index says they are the fourth most deadliest terror group in the whole world. Yet they are not being proscribed. Why? Because they appear to have some sentiment that is attached to the executives. Well, time shall tell. People no longer drive freely. Today, people in some forum were arguing, oh, yeah, the Igbo started kidnapping. Now we want to label these guys as, demonize them. And I say, you see, sometimes some arguments, sound and look stupid. Who cares if Igbos engage in kidnappers or Yorubas or Efik or Ijaw or whoever? If they engage in illegal activities, get them, smoke them out, roast them alive, get them and deal with them, prosecute them. The way, remember when in Abia State, when Osisi Kanko was misbehaving, kidnapping people, taking ransom, people deserted Aba until he kidnapped a school bus filled with school children. Hell let loose. Within a couple of weeks, Osisi Kanko was smoked out and dealt. The same way is what we are demanding. It's not too much. We're not asking. See, the Nigerian society is actually a society that has no demand. They have no demand. The Southeasterners are saying, okay, speak to us. Let us agree on how to run this nation. Do we want to run a regional government or do we want to run a federal system? If we want to run a federal system, this is, okay, let everything we do be inclusive. The Southwest is demanding something. The South is demanding something. It appears one region is not coming along with that. So when we say that we think the solution could be the concept or whatever was agreed in Aburia Code. So if the issue is going to be, let us get back to the regional government and let every region govern themselves. Some of you say it's disintegrating, dismembering the entity called Nigeria. I do not give whatever you call it, do it. If we are not going to live in peace, rather than go to war and destroy lives, no. Let us peacefully, as adults, say to ourselves, this marriage is not working. The marriage is not working. Be on your own. If you want to create Sharia in your own territory, so be it. If Niger or Chad today is a Sharia territory or a Sharia country, sorry, I have no business. I'm not coming. But I don't want the same to happening where I live. So if Saudi Arabia, based on the work I do, sometimes I have offers to work in Saudi Arabia and I say, no, not freaking me. That's me. Stay in your own country. I do not want. Of course, yes, I go to Dubai. I work in Dubai. I work in other, Islamic countries, in Malaysia, Singapore. I go there freely because, yes, these are moderate, a religious country where I think my life is not in danger, where somebody, could just basically walk up and get some allegations and things get out of hand. So, in conclusion, El-Zakzaky, again, I would state the following. I think and I believe that the proscription of IPOB was wrong. IPOB should be unprescribed. Proscription of Islamic movement of Nigeria is wrong. They should be unprescribed. rather than get to groups that we have not seen, not any record, nowhere have we seen them carrying arms. We have not seen any of them carrying arms. How come to today, none of this group, think about this, none of this group has ever been charged for sedition, has ever been charged for armed. None of them has ever been charged for, illegal firearm or whatever. How can you prescribe a group that not even a member, not even one, has been seen with arm or firearm? So be it. Not one person. Yet we just jump in, boom, terrorist group. Tomorrow we'll be crying that the economy is not doing well, because when the world looks at us and say, wow, that freaking place is not secure to put our money in, and we'll start crying that the economy is not doing well. Whereas we are the ones that caused it. We could have handled this differently, but we chose not to. So I stand to say I do not agree with that because of universal justice. And I believe any government that will come after this present government should undo some of these things done with malice. That's my understanding and that's my belief. Thank you very much for listening. This is El-Zakzaky. Remain blessed.